shit, is that the theme?
That's the beat.
No, I pressed record and there was a countdown apparently.
Welcome to the We Press Record.
This is a note for editor Pat to cut that bullshit out when we finally have a theme song.
Ah, fucking keep it in.
That can be the unofficial theme song until we have a theme song.
FPR.
Hey, guys.
FPR, baby.
Is that what this podcast is called? Keep it in?
No, it's called We Finally Press Record because that's what I just did.
Right.
Yay!
So yeah, welcome to the FPR podcast. This is Pat.
I'm Stubby.
I'm Daniel.
And we've got... Who are you?
You can get Chris is fine, or Netty. Chris and Netty, so never mind.
Chrisetti.
Thanks for having me, by the way. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
so it's our first guest. Not that this podcast has really gone anywhere yet.
And I'm not famous either,
And,
so...
in fact, we still haven't actually, at this point, we still haven't posted it.
That's true.
We'll
that's
get
true.
there. We'll get there.
But as we kind of discussed with this podcast, we kind of want it to be a wheelhouse of our friends coming through, and there's a police siren in the background.
Mad. Welcome to my neighborhood.
GTA, motherfucker.
That's not for I swear it's not for any of us. Quick hide.
Oh, good spike on the mic there, Dan.
You're welcome.
So, the topic for discussion today is gaming with siblings.
Man, what a fun one this is gonna be.
Yeah.
So I think I should just sort of start off by saying like our situations in this kind of space. So I myself have two older brothers. That's Grant or Stubby. I mean, you should know voices are very
Yeah,
different.
you have a pretty distinct voice.
We have very different voices.
I
hope
have a younger and an older brother.
I have just one older brother.
And I am an older brother, so I have a younger brother, 3.
So, okay. I guess the first thing, what was the console that you were playing when you and your sibling were playing together, if you ever actually played together?
Ooh.
That's a tough one. I think it was SNES for me.
Yeah, my one was definitely Super Nintendo.
The thing is, we didn't play like 2-player games together necessarily on the SNES, but we would take turns and argue about who would be playing. Even though in Super Mario World, there's a 2-player function. I don't think we ever used that. I think we would just
Always plays Mario, go
Yeah.
life for life kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, mine's the same. SNES, Genesis. I think my earliest memory was watching my brother play Pokemon Red, but the cartridge that you could put in the SNES so you could play it on the TV.
And like the Super Game Boy.
Yeah. I remember sitting there watching him play it because he was the older brother, so he was playing it, but I knew more about Pokemon than him. So I was basically advising him on the Pokemon and all that stuff while he played.
That's actually an interesting dynamic for gameplay on that.
That was adorable.
I've got a little bit of deep-seated PTSD around Pokemon due to my older brother. Because, so to answer your question, Stubby, for me, it depends on which brother. Because my brothers and I were born 6 years apart. So my older brother and I, that was kind of tail end of the Master System, Mega Drive era, because we were a Sega family. And then I think my parents, for Christmas, got both my older brother and I a Game Boy, because then we didn't have to play together, and therefore we wouldn't fight.
It never ends up the way they
And
hoped.
the reason I bring up the PTSD around Pokemon is because I was really into Pokemon. My brother was really into whatever was cool at the time. And so my parents got us Game Boy each, and we got Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue so that we wouldn't have the same game. It was put up to us as to who got which game, and my brother was the older brother. So he chose Pokemon Red, knowing full well that Red is the only color. Well, we found out later I was colorblind and Red's the only color I can see, but Red was my favorite color, and Charizard was my favorite Pokemon. And in one fell swoop, dashed my hopes. So I played through Pokemon Blue.
And I'm sure you had a great... You could still pick
to be
Charizard.
fair,
No, but here's the
you
thing.
got the better one.
Here's the
Blastoise rocks.
Okay, well, first of all, fuck you. What happened was my brother played through, I think he got up to the first gym and then stopped playing. And so I finished Pokemon Blue and loved it so much that I then took his copy of Pokemon Red and played through that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then when it came to my younger brother, I'd like to say it was probably PlayStation, like PS1, borderline N64. But I don't actually, until we were a bit older, I don't think we gamed that much together because by then, like by the time he was old enough to game with me, I'd grown out of the games that he wanted to play. And then...
Sorry, how much older is your brother than you?
So we're 6 years apart.
Oh, so that's quite... Yeah, so that's a big gap.
So by the time my younger brother was like 5 or 6, I was 12 in high school. You know, I was playing the MA15 plus games that I wasn't supposed to play because Australians got a really...
rebel.
Yeah, I know, we got a really fucked up rating system.
Rebels.
We got that already.
I was playing things like Grand Theft Auto and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, whereas my brother was still playing, you know, Freddy the Fish on the computer and stuff like that.
Fuck yeah. Freddy Fish was awesome. Especially Putt-Putt. Love Putt-Putt.
I mean, my brothers kind of went the same trajectory, but it was my older brother that you really saw the overtaking of like the younger brother becoming better than the older brother. And I'm not sure that my younger brother really ever reached that. At least it depended, like, because I continued gaming into adulthood. My older brother didn't. My older brother will play some games with his kids now, but for the most part, he doesn't game anymore. And even when he did, it would be racing games and sports games, and that is not my cup of tea. Unless it's like an arcade racer or Mario Kart.
Okay, what about board games and card games? Was there any crossover with that kind of gaming?
Well, why don't we get through video games first?
Well, I think it kind of it ties in. Like, so, I mean...
because it's all kind of a version of gaming, different types. But, see, my family, when I was growing up, at least when I was younger, we were very big board games. Like, we were the type of family where at least for a large number of years, like once a week, you had like a board game night. So you'd play your Monopolies, your Trivial Pursuits and Game of Lives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I remember some very intense nights sometimes, especially actually... That is part of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Monopoly, because all four of us would play it, and my brother definitely, and I can't actually remember, to be honest, if it was my dad or my mum, but one of my parents, they took it very seriously, whereas me and the other parent didn't. We were kind of in it for the fun.
Yeah.
So you had these two who were really intense, like, you know, debating, wanting to buy property, you know, do you selling, you know, what are you going to give me? What can you do?
It's glorious.
And then you had someone like me who'd land on a house and be like, yeah, I could buy a house. Ha ha! You know, so I eventually got out of Monopoly because I was like, this is too intense. And it was absolutely, I think, more directed at my brother. I was like, you take this. But then, look, on the same token, Trivial Pursuit, I adore Trivial Pursuit because I love anything where I can, like, I love random facts. I love trivia things. Like, even to this day, I'll still just go on random sites and read up random trivia and things like that. My brother wasn't as into it. So in that board game, it was literally the opposite. I was the one who was taking Trivial Pursuit really seriously, trying to get all the answers, like really being intense about it. You know, the one where like, if they, you know, I'd want to look at the card, double check the answer and make sure they weren't messing with me and stuff. Whereas my brother, he wanted to win. He had that competitive side, but he didn't care as much. So yeah, like there was definitely that dynamic as well.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, you wouldn't think it now, but the only board games we really had were Monopoly and a game called Upwards, I think it was, which was basically Scrabble, but you could stack
put letters on top to
right?
make new words,
which didn't get played very often. I think my parents played that more than us. And we would play Monopoly maybe once a year and play for 3 hours. We wouldn't always complete the game, but we would have a harsh memory as to why we only play it once a year. But in saying all of that,
PTSD flashbacks.
yeah, there's a lot of that. My brother and I are on great terms now. But it took
back then.
Did you spell out sorry?
Many times.
No, but like Daniel's kind of lived it through with me. He knows like what our relationship used to be and what it is now.
Yeah.
And polar opposites.
Right.
But my grandmother and my great auntie used to live like 4 or 5 hours away from us.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so that would kind of be like an easy family holiday. We'd go stay with them. They live near the beach. We could, you know, go have a holiday up there.
Yeah.
That's where our Mega Drive ended up. Because that way we had something to play up there, because as we got older, the, you know, thrill of spending a week at your grandmother's house kind of
Dulled
down a bit. But the reason I bring that up is because my grandmother and her sister were really into card games. And so I learned how to play poker. I learned how to play rummy, like so many different card games with them. And when I was playing card games with them, I got to stay up late because we would play out on like this back deck. Like it was very picturesque, like back deck, summer, crickets and cicadas in the background. And just like really like dull, almost like it was fluorescent bulbs that was almost like candlelight.
Romantic. Did you use like chips as like potato chips as chips?
Not really.
Like
no, we never really played like a gambling version of it.
Right.
But I said actually in my wedding speech, because unfortunately my great auntie's passed away now.
I thought you were going to say, unfortunately, I'm married. I was like, oh my God.
No. Strike that from the record. But no, I said that like I kind of attribute my love for card games and board games now to those nights spent.
That's sweet.
But on the polar opposite of that, in terms of PTSD, when I started getting into retro gaming again, now that I'm older, I went to my grandmother's house and I said, "Hey, do you still have that Mega Drive?" Because I'm not kidding. We had like we had the adapter for Master System, so we had a Mega Drive, and I would say like 300 games between the Master System and Mega Drive. And awesome. My grandmother very kindly and very innocently said, "Oh, you boys weren't playing it anymore," so I donated them. And I was like, a little part of me died. Like, don't get me wrong, donating is great. That's fine. But
no, shut up. That sucks.
It's hard because it's like it's the innocence. They don't know what they're doing, and you're like, I get it.
And then the other coin, like it had only happened a couple of weeks before I'd like she'd only donated it a couple of weeks before I went up there. So I went to the because they had a storefront.
Yeah.
And whoever worked there clearly knows video games. And I saw like some of my cartridges there, and no one should.
Look, there's a part of me that's like feels sorry for you, but then there's another part of me that feels sorry for me because now I can't get your games.
I understand that, but like there's a little like as much as like I'm an advocate for donating things that you're not using anymore and stuff like that. I will say, as a gamer who's grown up a gamer, a little part of you dies inside where you are faced with the decision of whether or not you should spend $200+ on a game that you literally grew up playing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the game, it's the cartridge.
Yeah, $200 on the game that is yours. That is that you own technically.
Yeah. Well, I remember one of the things that one of the hardest things I had to hear was a similar situation where I went to my dad and I was like, "Do we still have the N64 in the attic?" And he went, "Oh no, I threw that out years ago." And I went,
that out.
You threw it out, and it was the same thing. Because in my head, I'm like, he doesn't game, he doesn't understand. So I don't want to get upset at him because obviously he has no clue, and he was doing what he thought was right. He was clearing out the attic, but the gamer in me went, "You fucking threw out an N64, which had games like all three of the original Mario parties, the two Zelda games, the original Super Mario 64, Mario Kart 64.
It wasn't broken either. Those things will survive.
I was just like,
I will say, mine is teetering, but I still have my 64 Pokemon Snap stickers and all.
Absolutely. Those things last. Like mine still works completely fine.
Yeah, with board games, my oldest brother would play board games with me. So we had Test Match, which was like this weird...
Oh, fuck. I love Test Match.
Test Match was sick, right? And so my oldest brother would be the only one that would actually like play board games with me. And we would play that. We would play the really shit Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one that I've got over there that you got to do the stupid seesaw thing to move the dice. And the number on the dice isn't what matters. It's the pocket that it lands in. It's fucking stupid. And we played like Hero Quest and we had tons. We had tons of board games.
Can I tell you, just like as a side tangent to like, because you've just unlocked a core memory for me, right?
Achievement unlocked.
That happens a lot.
It's probably a game that you'd only be able to get in Australia or England or maybe Pakistan
India,
or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? It's a cricket game. If you don't know what cricket is, you're not.
Google.
No, they're uncultured swines.
Probably just don't live in a country that play cricket.
Yeah, probably.
But my dad bought it because my dad's a massive cricket nut.
Yeah.
set it up, looked at the rulebook, and was like, "This is too fucking hard. I'm gonna go watch the cricket." Right? And by that time, my older brother was too cool to be playing games with kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so it ended up being we would set up the little cricketer, which had a trigger mechanism to make him swing the bat.
Yep.
And then there was a
Sounds fun.
bowler, which he was like
it was a flick, wasn't it?
No, it was a seesaw. So you push down one of his arms.
Yeah, that's
and
what I mean, like,
fold
you
it
flick it.
down.
And it
That's
would
awesome.
have this like a slippery dip.
Yeah,
like, kind of thing that it
it's
comes
like
out.
the slides that they use for bowling, like
Yeah.
for kids.
Yes, yeah, like bubble
And-
bowling.
No joke. I don't think I've ever played a game of test match, but I spent many hours with my younger brother with us just taking
Just
in
hitting
turns
the
bowling it and seeing if we could hit it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And that's it.
Because it'd be just like a little ball bearing kind of thing, like a little metal ball.
And I
bearing.
have this distinct memory of me going for a period of time where my brother couldn't hit the ball and him just completely losing his shit and hitting me with the batter.
I can see
Nice.
that.
Nice.
I can definitely
That's
see that.
so awesome.
So, between my oldest brother and myself, there's like quite a significant number of years. In fact, if I think it's like something close to 12 or 13 years between us. Now that I think about it. So, I was still relatively young when he got married. Unfortunately, this one, I mean, and him like moving out, and so like my next. Like the next brother that was like closer to my age, the first kind of gaming that we played was we used to play Wolfenstein on the PC, and one of us would control the movement, and the other would control the shooting and the opening of the doors. And I, thinking about it now, that would be the most terrible way to play a multiplayer game. But we did that for like absolutely ages when Wolf 3D came out.
Nice.
I would say, honestly, and this is something to take home to anyone who might be listening to this. If you want a real test of any relationship, play a game like that.
Or if
Honestly,
you want to
like-
a relationship, like
No, like
Well, that's the test.
Did you ever,
You win or
did
you
you ever
lose.
play Octodad?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
By myself.
I've played it on my own, yeah.
Right? Yeah. The multiplayer mode in that is that you have separate players controlling separate limbs.
things, yeah.
And you end up in this like it's what I imagine the practicality of piloting a Megazord or like Voltron is,
Actually, that's a good point, that.
right? Or like no, like Pacific Rim. Like you have to be in sync with someone.
And then you always have that one person who kind of messes with you and
I want to be
doesn't
Charlie
in
Hunnam.
sync.
Can I be Charlie Hunnam?
I want to be the hot Asian chick.
Yeah, that's Charlie Hunnam.
Can I be
like-
a kaiju?
No
yeah, but-
joke. They don't do games like that anymore. The last time I had that sort of experience was with some fucking random person. I was at a convention playing Mario on that fucking giant
Oh,
NES
the giant
controller.
kid, yep.
And you have to do it because you have to have someone on the buttons and someone on the controller.
Controller, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, back in the day, they didn't do it that way either. They just chose to do it that way.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
it is interesting, like what you would do with your siblings so that you could both play amicably. It is it's fun as like my brother and I always had like a half an hour. Or it eventually moved to 1 hour policy because half an hour wasn't enough for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just the stuff that you would like I remember when we were really excited for games coming out, we would play demos, and like I think Mortal Kombat we tried to get through I think the demo was just a fighting ladder when it was Mortal Kombat 9 coming out. And so we were like, oh, let's see how fast we can get through the ladder. Or when we were playing Batman, hey, let's see how Arkham Asylum, let's see how fast we can get through the demo, and so we would time ourselves sort of thing to just because we were so excited, but all you could play was that very small snippet of the game itself. So
Yeah.
it's interesting what like
I think there's a whole episode in demo discs, man.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Because like
All the PS1 demo discs.
I mean,
Fuck
PT
yeah.
would obviously have to come up. PT is probably, I would say, the ultimate demo. Like, can you guys think of anything that's more substantial?
Would you even
fucking Tombi and Abe's Odyssey.
Abe's Odyssey,
Right?
What was the demo?
if you were affluent enough to buy a PS1, but not affluent enough to buy it with games, you got a demo disc with
Yeah.
the console,
damn
Yeah.
straight?
and you played
Yeah,
you played Abe's Odyssey, and Tombi over and over
It
and
sounds like a
over
very
again.
personal story.
I think like it'll be safe for a demo disc episode, but I don't think anything can reach the peak of the PlayStation 1 demo discs.
Yeah.
That was just an era of its own.
Remember when you used to get them at Pizza Hut?
No, I used to always get them in like the magazines.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
the magazines are the
magazines.
main ones I used to
Yeah.
get them from. I remember the PC games that used to come from like
There
Pizza
is
Hut.
actually-
Pizza
Yeah.
games or something. Maybe it
But
wasn't
not
Pizza
so
Hut.
much PlayStation.
There is
Maybe it was
actually
magazines,
a
maybe.
demo snippet here though, because my brother used to buy the video game magazines, and so
And they'd have
I would get excited for like every second week when he'd go buy one of those magazines and come back with a demo disc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say
And
that
I
was
distinctly remember being upset at the Nintendo 64 because it had cartridges and therefore did not have demos.
You know what? I used to feel so robbed whenever I'd buy a second magazine and it would have the same demo that was on one of the
yeah,
previous
yeah.
discs.
No, right?
It was
I've already played this.
I've already played Tomb Raider. What is going on?
And yeah, as like now we're older, we can appreciate how long it takes to develop a video game.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
it's-
It's not like you have a new game bi-weekly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's some
Here's
core
one for
memory.
you on the topic of gaming with siblings. Have you, or like maybe in the case of you and you, been the recipient of the dud controller that doesn't work because you're too young to play video games, but you're old enough to want to be included?
Older brother, so no. Always.
Did you
first
ever
player.
give the dud controller though?
We were always really good with our controllers, so we never had a dud one. Which, we never had that problem. I probably would have if we did have.
So
one, but-
actually, there's probably two things here. So one, it's picking the better controller. So obviously, older brother. player
mine was
one,
always the
you get
see-through purple one.
Yeah, you get the good one. My younger brother, whenever we played like Naruto together, he would get like the Mad Cats one that's been thrown around by him.
Yeah.
But no, what I'm talking
Fucking
about
Mad Cats. Oh my god.
what I'm talking about is, so when my little brother was young and my older brother and I were playing games on the odd occasion that we could actually play a game before we shot each other. Sometimes in the game, like we played.
Yeah,
literally,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
actually, literally.
My younger brother was old enough to want to be included, but too young to actually play. So we would give him an unplugged controller
Yeah.
to make it feel like him feel like he was playing the game.
Yeah.
I'm included.
No, look, to be fair, my memory's shocking, which will probably come up in every episode. But I don't remember us ever doing that. Generally, if it was like one of us was playing, like if my older brother was playing and he didn't really want me to contribute, I just didn't play. But
Yeah.
I think at the same time, I was always kind of old enough and it was explained to me in such a way that I understood. He didn't have to kind of lie to me and be like, he just used this controller. It was, look, I'm playing, you can have a go after, I'm playing now. This is only a one-player game. And I'll be like, okay, I'll watch you then. And when I was young, especially, for me, that was great. As long as I could watch, I was happy. Obviously, I wanted to play as well, but especially when I was young, if you could just sit me there and let me watch, I was more than happy to do it because I was just like, cool, which probably shows how much why I love watching YouTube Let's Plays and Twitch now. It's just continued into adulthood.
Yeah.
See, and
So-
I was in my house. I was like the game master from pretty much birth. I'm not
Came out of
even.
the womb with a controller.
I'm not even kidding when I say this. Like,
system after
my-
you were the Game Boy.
my mum has told me stories that I honestly would not deny, and even though I don't really get along all that well with my mum, but
Don't
she
worry, I
has
do.
said that she has like walked into the front room and found me at the age of 2 setting up the Atari 2600 and dialing in the channels through the aux cord in the back and setting it up perfectly
for-
without any kind of adult supervision.
For the younger viewers, you used to have to dial into it. Just so you know.
You had to choose what channel it was.
I have a similar story to that. Not necessarily around video games, but when my dad was like working on security computers, like he worked for telcos, so when internet first started becoming a big thing, we were one of the first families to have it. We had a decent computer because he needed one for work. And my mum has this story that she proudly tells everyone when they find out I work in IT that I was born for it. Because at the age of 1.5 or 2 or something like that, I walked into the room the computer was in, turned it on, opened up like Microsoft Paint equivalent of the time, drew something, printed it out, and selected to print it in color.
Yeah.
which was a separate thing, and then shut the computer down properly,
Wow.
and then gave the picture to my mum because
That's so
I
cute.
had just watched people do it.
But yeah.
Like,
And-
look at me, bleep, bloop, bleep, I'm
Absolutely.
dad.
And also, like, with that, yeah, the Atari was also the first game I can really remember me and my older brother playing together was Indy 500. It was pretty much about the only game that he actually really liked playing on the Atari, besides sometimes California games and
Fucking love California games.
and another game that was called Skateboarding. Because, you know, you don't spell the whole word when you're cool, man.
Yeah,
You're
man.
just skateboarding.
Grommet.
Did they at least
Get in on it, Grommet.
did they at least put an apostrophe?
Yes, there was an
Thank
apostrophe.
God.
Literally, there was an apostrophe.
Grammar people.
And so when I got the Super Nintendo, I should also preference this as well. I have an auntie who spoiled me rotten when it came to video games. Pretty
It
much,
doesn't show.
literally, if I asked for anything, she would get it and like 2 or 3 other ones in case what she got was wrong. Like, she just that's my auntie, like, in a nutshell. When I got the Super Nintendo, which this is also going to be a part that comes up in like our 16-bit talk, the first games that I got, the box of the SNES came with Street Fighter 2, and my auntie got me Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania 4, and Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
I feel like this has shaped your adult.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
And, like,
is that where your love for
So
Street Fighter ends?
but how unfair is that? After that, what the fuck is going to live up to those 3
It's
games?
like-
So from there, 16-bit was just a downward spiral. so because the only multiplayer game that we had was Street Fighter, and because I was so ridiculously good at just games in general, when my brothers did actually want to play, they'd always make me the second player. So I got used to playing Street Fighter from the right-hand side of the screen rather than from the left-hand side. So when I eventually ended up like playing in arcades and stuff, I'd always jump on the right-hand side, and I would have the Hadouken advantage.
What's the Hadouken advantage?
Well, like, you do a quarter circle. If you get so used to doing down to like the right-hand side and hitting the button,
Yeah.
you have a
it's muscle
distinct
memory.
advantage. But if you try, after doing that a million times, if you suddenly try doing it the other way, you kind of mess it up.
Especially when it's
Interesting.
like a game that needs some frame accuracy, which is
Mm.
yeah, wild. You like bringing up California games. I have this distinct memory because California games was like sporty enough that my older brother was into it. But the games that we were good at within California games
yeah.
were the opposites.
Ah!
So we'd end up kind of meeting in the middle and tying a lot of the time.
Nice.
It's awesome.
But I feel like we haven't heard much from you, Netty.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I was gonna say, did you guys ever fuck with your brothers in going back to like?
No, I have never fucked with my brother.
Damn straight. What the hell?
Well, like when because I remember obviously because I was older. I was better at games, I think, just because of the age advantage, and so like we would play games. He would get pissed off because I would always kill him, and then I would try to get him to play games with me because I really wanted to play video games with him. Mainly because I could kill him. So I'd be like, oh no, look, I'll give you, like, I remember in Time Splitters, I think it was 3, I'd be like, oh, I'll give you all the bots. And I was like, I'm still beating him, even though he's got all the bots. And it felt great. Or like, team killing your brother in like Halo and shit and pissing him off.
Yes.
That was always fun. But I remember when Oblivion came out. And we, like, PC gaming, like, we were mainly console gamers, like, PlayStation 2 and N64 was sort of the things that we would play the most. But then when we got a PC where we could play, like, Oblivion blew us away when we first played it, because it was, like, the biggest thing that we had ever played, like, a huge open world where you can, in quotes, go and do anything.
There's still a lot of people that would argue that point.
Yeah, like, we were just like, oh my god, this is amazing. We got the guidebook for it as well. But I remember when we got it, my brother, like, I think I was maybe 13 or 14 or like around that age, and my brother's like 2 and a bit years younger than me. But I remember him saying, oh yeah, I tried installing it and it doesn't work on our computer. And I was like, oh, that sucks. But I didn't think anything of it until like a week later. I found him playing it on our computer and was like, you son of a bitch. Like, he just lied to me so that he didn't have to share the game with me. It was fucking hilarious.
Yes!
But I bet a small part of you was proud, right?
No, God, no.
So
I'm proud now, but I was so
At the time.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Like, that's what I mean. Now you're kind of looking back and you're like, well,
Yeah, I
okay,
think
good
that's
move.
fucking
Good move.
hilarious, but yeah.
on the topic of messing with my siblings when it comes to gaming, one of the ones that I remember very clearly is I used to play a lot of the multiplayer games we had were fighting games, so like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. When it was my younger brother, we had a lot of like the acquired through means of questionable legality games, which included
Eye patches.
the Naruto and Ninja Storm games, which weren't about not Ninja Storm.
Shippuden?
It was the Ultimate Ninja games before it became
Oh, yeah.
Storm. So the PS2 ones, which never came out here.
Right.
Right, and I was big into Naruto at the time, and because I was into Naruto and my younger brother was into Naruto, he just wanted to play. And one of the things that I used to do, and it was like Mortal Kombat for my older brother, Naruto for my younger brother, is I used the internet, which was a thing that neither of my brothers used very much. My older brother used it mostly for MSN Messenger at the time,
Yeah.
or ICQ. That's dating me. And my younger brother was too young. What I did it for
How many
was
rings?
like cheat codes and fatalities in Mortal Kombat, because this was like
yes, fatalities.
predating
Yeah.
them including them as like microtransactions in the game.
Or even just showing them in the
or
post
even
menu.
just showing them, right?
They were never.
And so
Explicit.
I have like these like memories, and it would be like not only would I win, but
Then you
the ultimate fuck you of like doing the special move at the end,
Oh.
right? And their first reaction is like, what the fuck? And the second one is, how did you do that? And rather than explaining that I'm a nerd and I memorized all the button combinations, it was, I just mashed some buttons and it happened.
Fuck, I wish I'd thought of that. So,
Well, when it came to my older brother, I was doing it to piss off. When it came to my younger brother, I think I was at the age where I couldn't be bothered with the concept of explaining it to him.
yeah, no, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, so I'm not only having to learn to get used to using the right hand side of the TV in Street Fighter, I also was told no fireballs.
Yeah, dude, of course.
Because I could do fireballs and they just couldn't.
The handicap, that was interesting. I remember I had a friend at the time whose younger brother was the littlest shit. And yeah, absolutely. No, this one was particularly, and we were playing Halo 2 and he was getting so pissed off that I would lock on to the vehicles he would get into with the rocket launcher because you could lock on with it and no one else knew how to do it. And he would normally win because he would get in like a Banshee or get in, the Scorpion and shit. But I was blowing him up immediately. It was so satisfying just to watch him be pissed off and he's like, no one's allowed to lock on. I was like, okay, lock on.
Like, there's so many hours of that whole like, you'd go into like the combo list in a pause menu, and then it would be like, don't do anything, just give me a sec.
Oh, yes. Oh my God.
Let me try and pull it off. Hang on.
Hey, can I just try something for a sec?
Yeah.
What was?
Or like when we're playing Dragon Ball, give me a sec to charge up.
yeah. Oh my God. Well, what was everyone's favorite game to play with your brothers? Like, what's your most fond memory? It doesn't even have to be multiplayer. Just
Honestly, just working my way through the Mortal Kombats with my older brother and the
Kombat's a special
Naruto
one.
games with my younger brother. But I have a distinct memory on the PS1 of, and this is also dating me, Tokka Touring Cars. Which was a game that my older brother saw, and my older brother, both of my brothers actually are mechanics now, but my older brother started getting into cars like as he became a teenager, and he was like, oh cool, it's on PlayStation and it's cars.
Yeah.
That's good enough for me. And we would spend ages, he would like, when he was playing by himself, he would just like follow the campaign and do all the races. When it was the two of us playing, he would race and beat me at least 3 times, and then we would turn rain on and just have a crash fest.
That's awesome.
Yes!
That is awesome. So was it like just a racing game?
Yeah, it was like a not an arcade racer. Like it was kind of like Gran Turismo, but not Gran Turismo.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Toka touring cars. I think it's like NASCAR. Very, very.
It
similar
wasn't
to
so much NASCAR because
No, but it's
NASCAR
similar
was like
to it.
one track. It
Yeah.
was normal racing, but it wasn't like I think it was actually more Australian racing. I think there were some Australian tracks on there.
Yeah, like I mean, the same game would be called NASCAR in America.
Oh yeah, probably.
Right.
Like the Toka touring cars thing. I think they ended up turning into the V8 Supercars games
Yeah.
on PlayStation 2.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Australian made.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that too, because my older brother, even though like we would still play games every now and then, he was never a game enthusiast ever, right? Like, and the only time I've ever seen him be excited about a game was when Track and Field's The Need for Speed came out on PlayStation 1. Yes, The Need for Speed before it was like splashed with EA just bullshit. Like this was a car enthusiast's game. They had videos of the supercars doing like their 0 to 60 and all their like specifications and stuff like this, and it had the Dodge Viper, it had the Lamborghini Diablo, it had the Acura NSX. There was I think 6 or 7 cars there, but the game was modeled very realistically. You wouldn't be doing like, you know, burnouts around corners and stuff like that. It was supposed to be realistic. And I remember my brother being super hyped about it when I got the PlayStation 1, and I really only wanted it for 2 games, and that was Alien Trilogy and Resident Evil 1. And Resident Evil 1, I found out, was far from being released. I just saw it in a magazine and went, I'm going to get a PlayStation right now because I need these 2 games. And then I found out, yeah, Resident Evil's not for another 6 months. I'm like, oh, shit. And he's like, okay, well, but he's like, okay, like, can I just make a suggestion? Can we get this, like, track and field game, Need for Speed? And I was like, sure, like, a racing game? Let's go. And that'll lead me into this. The game that I, like, played the most with my brothers, that we had the most fun with, that there wouldn't be a cheering squad for my brother because they just wanted to see me lose for a change. Fuck, that really used to annoy me as a kid. Like, that got so under my skin that, like, they would literally get their mates cheering them on. And I'm sitting there going, but I want to win too. What about me? Like, it just, yeah, I don't know. Kind of, it got to me more than I let them know. I was like, you know, I'd laugh it off.
I think, like, particularly if you've ever been a younger sibling, you've always had one of those moments.
Hell yeah. But Super Mario Kart, and then later Mario Kart 64. Lesser on the Mario Kart 64 because then by then my older brother had kind of moved out as well. Then, yeah, so Super Mario Kart, though, the fact that it was the split screen, you could do the 2 players, the battle mode was probably the thing that we used to play the most.
Was Super Mario Kart's battle mode similar to the N64 one?
Yeah, very
I
similar.
played Super Mario Kart.
Very similar. So you got the 3, like, coloured balloons.
Yep.
And-
And when you got hit, you'd lose a balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
But
okay.
the only thing is, though, because of the way that the Mode 7 works,
Yeah.
there's no standing items around or walls. Every wall is flat to the ground.
Right.
So you kind of had to know where the walls were before you fired a green shell because it could
Right.
possibly come back and bounce and hit you.
Right.
So
Interesting.
it was
Okay.
it was actually like, whereas with the N64 ones and from then on, like the worlds were 3D mapped.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I kind of feel like as if the Super Mario battle mode was a little bit more hardcore.
The squad thing, though, this is going to happen a lot. You've unlocked another quick
Yeah,
memory.
that was one of the reasons why I brought it up.
Distinct memory of like my older brother having all his mates around because we'd just gotten the new Mortal Kombat, and my mum being like, "You have to play with your younger brother, to, like, include him in the right."
You
That's
sound just like her.
I know. I was going to say
That was uncanny. I thought she was right here.
very, very accurate representation of my mother. And, you know, we did the whole fighting game thing of winner plays on, right? And so eventually one of his I was still being excluded, but I was in the room watching. Like,
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that's enough.
Daniel style, right? It's whatever.
I'm just happy to be.
And I have this distinct memory of like one of my brother's nicer friends being like, "Oh, go on, give the kid a go." I think I played for an hour and a half.
Just
It became a competition of them trying to beat you.
And it ended around the time when I was finally fighting my older brother, and he was visibly getting upset. And his mates being like, oh man, you're so shit. Because it changed from them cheering to them like
shitting on him.
completely shitting on him.
That's awesome.
And
so
then it
you
was
were,
like,
you were
okay.
Shao Pat Khan.
Yeah, and then my older brother being like, oh, I think we should go somewhere else.
Yeah, of course, because the little brother was beating him.
Yeah.
That's
What
awesome.
about you?
Oh, well, mine's interesting, and it'll bring me into another point that I was actually going to ask. So, I think Pokemon's a big one for me, just because, like I said, like it was him playing and me watching was really what got me into Pokemon. And eventually, my older brother got out of playing Pokemon after the Game Boy era, basically. But I'm fairly certain he kept playing it at least into Gold and Silver longer than even he liked to play it because he knew I enjoyed it. And so he was playing it at that point I was playing. So he was kind of playing it with me for the trades and
I
stuff.
love how wholesome
that's-
all of your stories
That-
are.
that's-
Like, what the
That's,
fuck?
look,
In his head, though, it's all spite.
It's like,
Me and my brother went through rough periods when we got a lot older. When we were younger, we, like any siblings, we fought. But when we were young, we were actually very, very close. Whereas during the older years, there was some separation and we're sort of coming back now. But the other memory I have, and I don't remember what the actual title of the name is, but I remember playing a game on the SNES that was Micro Machines Racing.
Yeah, it would have been just Micro Machines.
I don't know if it was just called, but I remember like I adored that game, probably even more than Super Mario Kart at that time, to be honest. And we played the fuck out of that game. Like I knew the tracks off by heart. And I think it was very even in terms of who was better at it. It wasn't like he was really good than I ever took him. We always were kind of neck and neck.
Was that the one that had the rubber banding? Like all four cars had to stay on the
Yeah.
screen at the same time?
Yeah. Like when you're playing any computer would always be behind you.
Yeah.
But they would always shoot up to you immediately because as soon as they went off screen, it was just like, ding, and they were there.
Yeah,
But I just loved it because, it was like you depending on the track, you'd play as different vehicles. So you had, you'd play as boats when it was a water level, and you'd play as
and you were in like a
car.
bathtub.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
The course was set by the bubbles in the
Yeah.
bath. I remember that.
And then
game.
there was
That
ones like
so
you'd be
sick.
driving over a pool table and you'd fall in the holes and you'd walk to another hole and hop out. And it was really, really good.
that's a neat idea.
But the idea it brings me into, though, is because from what I'm feeling, from what everyone's describing, how early, I suppose, did you hit a point where you stopped playing with siblings? Because with me and my brother, that actually happened quite early. Not because we didn't want to, but we very early on developed similar tastes of loving single-player games. Which we were happy to watch each other play, but at the same time, it wasn't really multiplayer. Plus, obviously, my brother then hit the point where he started playing games with his friends. So if it was multiplayer, they'd play games together. I don't know. I don't remember us really ever having the experience of, I had to be included. I had to play with them. It definitely happened, but it didn't happen a lot. Most of the time, if my brother had his friends over and they were gaming, I wasn't involved. To be honest, part of the reason also was as well, my brother's a big sports nut. So they would always play games like FIFA and things like that. I wanted nothing to do with sports. So if I did go in to be like, oh, what are you guys playing? And they're like, we're playing FIFA. I'd be like, see you later. So I feel like from quite kind of an early age, once you kind of got to like, the PlayStation N64 and stuff, like that was it already. Me and my brother, we'd still talk about the games. We could connect through that, but we didn't play together. And it really kind of hit that strong disconnect after that. And from the point of like Xboxes and stuff onwards, especially once we had our own money, then suddenly we're getting our own consoles. So we had two of them because one was mine, one was his. And then I'd get my own, and then I had my own lounge room because my brother was upstairs for 2 stories. I was downstairs. So I was like, well, why have an Xbox upstairs? I'll just put one in the downstairs lounge room. So then suddenly we were completely gaming separate.
And you also weren't having to worry about buying a game that you just had to share.
Exactly. So we still 100% connected through games. We'd always talk about our experiences. There were games we'd both play, but it has been literal decades since I was a child that I feel like I actually played a game together with him. There was a little bit of time when I was older, when I was kind of into COD, because my brother and his friends were always into the CODs and stuff like that, and I kind of played with them. But then I got out of it. I was like, no, this isn't my scene anymore. So I feel like, I very early on lost the gaming experience of playing with a sibling.
I think for me, and I kind of touched on it before, my brother kind of fell out of gaming for a long period of time. And I think he's only really picked it up now because of his kids. And he only really plays with them and very sparingly. But he also works 6 days a week, most week. And like, my brother works a lot. For my younger brother, I think my younger brother and he started kind of going his own way and getting into like sports games and shooters and stuff like that. But we kind of we reached the point where the couch co-op experience was disappearing.
It was, yeah.
And it was all online games, and I was like, well, I'm not going to play an online game with my brother in the other room. That doesn't seem worth it. But I have all of these friends online. I'll play with them. And then I kind of fell out of multiplayer gaming altogether. Like, there was a time where every afternoon you would find me on MSN, on World of Warcraft, or on both.
Yeah.
Or, like, as you said, COD. Like,
Halo.
Halo. Our Halo nights, the fucking midnight launches. You, me, and a couple of mates doing Legendary, all skulls. And you
that is one episode that I really can't wait. Like, the gaming with friends one. Oh, man. Because, I mean, we already have one of the greatest fucking stories ever. Like, in fact, 3 of the people in this room, when we did the Switch launch party. That was fucking awesome, and I cannot wait to talk about that.
But yeah, we just kind of fell out of it, and then, like I said, with my younger brother, like, the idea of couch co-op kind of dissipated. And, there were a couple of times where he was like, oh, I got this game, do you want to play with me? And we weren't on great terms, so I was like, not really.
He didn't know you weren't on great terms.
No, he did. He just, it
was the olive branch.
I wouldn't call it that.
He was meeting
guilt
he was
than
meeting
anything,
with
or
the
he
olive
wanted
branch.
something. But I think a big part of it too was because my brother's interest was waning. But like I said, I carried on gaming well into adulthood.
Yeah.
There reached the point where it wasn't fun for him anymore because I was winning. And with my younger brother, that didn't happen as much. He got better at games that I wasn't interested in.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you, if you put him and I in, like, Fortnite, and if I had played Fortnite for a while, which I haven't, he would still beat me because he's got so many hours in that game.
Yeah. I've noticed that a lot. You've all mentioned that your brothers had very disparate tastes from what you guys had, which is interesting for me because my brother and I, we've always landed on very similar tastes. Like, in terms of board games, we never really played board games growing up because they all sucked. At least the ones that were the classic Monopoly ones. I hated those.
Cluedo.
Yeah. Hey, Cluedo bangs.
Cluedo.
Yeah, maybe
Does,
I won't
but
lump in
1,000
Cluedo,
times.
But Monopoly
yeah,
definitely was one we weren't interested in. But we did we loved playing because our mum was a huge Scrabble freak. We loved playing that together.
Do you ever play Categories?
Oh,
Yeah, we did play
Scattergories.
That was one that we used to play a lot.
Amazing.
I love
Yeah,
Categories.
I haven't thought of that name in ages. But yeah, absolutely. But like we played Magic the Gathering, or like we had very similar hobbies. We wouldn't even play Warhammer 40k, but we both really loved it. And he would like paint his Necrons, I would paint my Tau. And we would get into the same things, but then have very different avenues of how we would sort of tackle it. Knights of the Old Republic, we would play that. He would always be dark side, I would always be light side. Same with like Mass Effect, things like that. He was always going the dark route, I was always going the light route. And like playing single player games and multiplayer games was the same for us. We just loved playing games together. And if that meant either playing together in a multiplayer game or playing a single player game and then swapping every hour, it was the same because we just enjoyed it. So the idea of just us enjoying single player games and not playing together didn't actually happen for us. Even when we got older and we, would start working. I remember my brother coming home from working at the markets and smelling of cigarettes, and he would lie down on my bed and watch me play on my computer, and my bed would smell like cigarettes because he'd have fallen asleep watching me play video games. Or I would go downstairs because his bedroom was in the garage. Like, I would go down to the garage and chill on his couch and watch him play video games with his mates. And then when we got older and busier and work started to happen, we would play League of Legends in the afternoon together. And it's weird. We just sort of stayed intertwined. I think one of the most striking memories for me was when we got Demon Souls early because we had ordered it from overseas before it had come out in Australia. But because the PS3 was compatible
Region-free,
with
yeah.
region free. We were just like, this is awesome. It's like we're getting a game early, and when we put it in and it actually worked, it would, like, I don't know, I just remember that distinct memory of us just playing the single player game that is still a game that I adore.
Wow.
I think
it's awesome.
I think kind of the thing for me, and it's kind of infamous in my family, is that I'm the black sheep. Like, I'm the quintessential middle child. And so if you follow the trajectory of both of my brothers, they kind of line up. I am, overweight, homebody. I, would get a piece of electronic equipment and would take it apart and put it back together just to learn how it works, right?
Yeah.
Both of my brothers are ladies' men. They were more interested in cars and girls than staying at home and enjoying a movie or a TV show or something like that.
Right.
They both grew up. They both became mechanics. And I think a big part of that was because my older brother was the cool one and my younger brother idolized that. So their interests kind of went in parallel.
That's interesting.
And so
that makes sense.
And to your point before, like, there's what, 2.5 years between you and your brother?
Yeah.
There was 6 years between us.
Yeah.
And with you, there was 13.
Yeah.
So just by natural course of age,
the trajectories are very different. Yeah.
So, like, for
sense.
example, there was a very brief crossover, but when my older brother started watching TV, he was really into Ninja Turtles.
Oh,
right? And then that slowly bridged into Power Rangers. And so when I came along and I started watching TV, I kind of liked Ninja Turtles, but I really liked Power Rangers.
Right.
And then when my younger brother came along, he kind of liked Power Rangers, but there was another show. I can't remember what it was. And that's just kind of what happened. And yeah, like, it became a case of, my older brother likes this, well, I guess my younger brother likes that too. And we just kind of drifted apart. Like, there was a time where, like, when MMOs were all the rage, we played KOTOR together just to see who could get the better looking lightsaber, really. And because I didn't stop gaming and I was a forever alone sort of teenager, if I wasn't at home playing video games by myself or playing video games online with friends, I was at a friend's house playing video games with them.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like, Daniel and I spent a glorious summer together co-oping Gears of War.
Yeah.
And like afternoons after school or like weekends where we were hanging out. That was before I got my Xbox 360. You had the Xbox 360.
Yeah. And that was when we still only had one. That was before I got my own one.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. First world problem.
I know.
You and I had so much fun.
Yeah.
Playing through Gears of War 1 and just like the elation we had finishing it. I have good gaming memories with my brothers for the short time we had, but the ones that really stick with me are the ones that I've like forged with people who stayed in the hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, like, I think the best memory that I have out of all of it was playing. So I got my Super Nintendo and those games for Christmas, and the next school year was me going into high school. And I remember my brother specifically saying, "Come on, let's beat these games because people are saying that these are really hard games. How cool would it be to go into high school and say, oh yeah, I've already beaten Castlevania and Ghouls and Ghosts."
The high school experience, this sharing of things, like before internet sort of stuff, that was such a fucking trip. That was awesome.
Oh yeah. But my brother even saying that to me was like, I distinctly remember, and it was the older brother, not the oldest brother that said it. And again, like I said, he wasn't really a game enthusiast at all. But for him to say that actually kind of spurred me on to actually finish those games. And I did finish Castlevania 4. And then the next one that I sat down to do was the Super Ghouls and Ghosts. And then I found out you have to finish it twice, and you have to finish it with the fucking band that gives you this shit fireball that doesn't even go across the whole screen. And I went, you know what? I'm cool with just saying I finished Castlevania.
I just want to say, you made all four of our mics spike with that.
Good man.
And Netty, to your case about the schoolyard, did you know I have an uncle who works at Nintendo?
Oh, yeah.
They told me that if you use strength on a ute that's parked next to the SSN, there's a Mew under there.
Totally. Oh my god! Sorry, just slight tangent, core memory of one time watching my brother play Pokemon Red, and he got into the cave. That's Cerulean Cave, I think it is, where you capture Mewtwo.
Yes.
Now, at the time, I obviously first time playing it through no internet, nothing like that. We didn't know it was in there. This was my brother. He'd done the Elite Four. He was exploring, trying to catch all the Pokemon and stuff. And back then, the sprites, you didn't know what the hell the Pokemon was. It was like 4 or 5 generic ones used for the different types, and that was about it. It was basically, was it a bird? Was it a water? Was it some sort of monster? Like,
oh, you mean the in-map ones?
Yeah.
I was going to say, in battle, I know
in battle, but in the map, they just had the generic sprite. So when you until you for something like Mewtwo that was standing in the open, until you actually get to the battle,
like
you didn't actually know.
Or something.
You didn't know what it was. So, and I remember my brother distinctly walking up to talk to it. And in the game, when you talk to it before the battle starts, all it says is
Ben drowned.
No, it says Mew. That's it, because Pokemon say that, and of course from the Pokemon TV show cartoon, Pokemon say their name.
Yeah.
So I freaked out thinking my brother had found Mew in the game. And I was like, oh my god, he's found like the most rare Pokemon in the world. It is in the game. Oh my god. Then the battle started and fucking Mewtwo appeared on the screen. And I should have been elated because that was still cool. Hey, we found Mewtwo. I was pissed. I was like, this game has made him say Mew. And my mum was in the room with me. She's like, what's the big deal? And I went on a no joke, like 20-minute spiel about how the Pokemon say their names. Mewtwo's the only Pokemon that doesn't say his name. He talks. So why did he say Mew in the game? He shouldn't say Mew. They tricked, and I was so angry. And my brother was just like, but we got Mewtwo. Look, I've caught him. Like, isn't that cool? I'm like, yeah, but where's fucking Mew? Yeah. Obviously, I wasn't swearing back then. I was too young, but I was so angry. I was like, what the hell, man? Like, where's Mew? Like, I was so happy we found Mew, and it turned out it wasn't. Sorry, core memory unlocked, but oh my god.
Did you guys think that the dude out the front of that cave had like the British, like the British army hair? Like the big hair. The
no, I don't remember that,
because he's standing in front of the cave and it looks like he's gonna.
I've never thought of that.
No, I never
so,
thought of that.
You go look at it and he looks like he's a British guard.
I'm so glad that Dan hasn't trademarked this, but I'm just happy to be here. 'Cause I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about Pokemon.
Hey! Stop stepping on my turf, man.
Hey, bitch!
You know what? You know what? We can all be happy to be here. Okay, it's everyone.
Look, I honestly think looking at it now, I think my older brother knows more about Pokemon now purely because of my nephews than he ever did when he stole my copy of Pokemon Red. And I say stole.
Spite, apparently.
Yeah, no, very
Just
much.
to take the
no,
red.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah, no.
Emotional damage.
It's such a brotherly
Emotional.
thing to do.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Not just taking the game because it's my favorite color and my favorite Pokemon, but taking it and then playing it for all of 3 hours. I played...
That's a massive investment. What are you talking about?
I finished Pokemon Blue, and then I played Pokemon Red so much I maxed out the time on it.
Nice.
I stopped playing Pokemon Red when my mum bought me the Pokemon Game Boy Color for my birthday with Pokemon Yellow.
Hell yeah.
And then I maxed out the time on that.
So what you're saying is you're not a big Pokemon fan.
I was so excited about Pokemon Yellow because they actually look like the Pokemon from the anime. The Pokemon sprites in the first game.
Oh, messed up.
I love the Pokemon.
Some of them look so weird.
I do
I
too.
love
But
Fat Pikachu. They look so... I don't know. I really love the watercolor aesthetic and the weird, like...
you mean the
realistic-
limitations of the Game Boy?
No, but they had like they were based off of watercolor pictures. that
Yeah,
the
no,
artists did.
I can't remember his name, but yeah, no, I love the original concept art for Pokemon.
It's so good. I love Fat Pikachu.
Yeah.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah,
Chunky
Chunky. I
Pikachu.
prefer them to the anime.
When they put him in the card, like I just remember everyone talking about, oh, they're putting the chunky Pikachu in a card.
Chunkachu.
It's like, oh my god, does people care about it this much?
Yeah,
Chunky
big
Raichu.
Oh Lord, he coming.
Oh lordy, he coming. And yes, people do care about it that goddamn much.
That goes to our toxic fandom thing.
That'll be the next
I was
episode.
gonna say, wait, we should probably start wrapping things up.
Yeah.
I think just kind of as a way to close it out as siblings of siblings.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice you'd give to people out there that have a sibling? And
Yeah, I
Gaming
don't
with a
think there
sibling?
really is any advice. People are who people are. They're gonna be into what they're gonna be into. trying to force someone into something is going to probably make them resent it faster. Do I wish that my brothers were still into gaming? Abso-fucking-lutely I do. Me with my oldest brother, I tried to sort of reconnect with him in his gaming like these days. He plays a lot of the mobile games, like golf games that you can only play twice a day and then you have to pay money to keep going. And he's like, oh yeah, you can join my like club. And I was like, oh cool. Like I can actually help you get more points. Like mad, I'm into it. And you don't interact with each other at all. It's it's as superficial as superficial can be. So I stopped playing that one, although I did give it a good go for about a year. And my older brother has now 2 kids of his own, and pretty much the only gaming he does is with them. So he has no idea even what he's doing half the time. He's just like, does it keep him quiet? Then it's my favorite game.
It's a good game.
That's all he gives a shit.
The best game ever.
I think the advice that I would give is, despite how annoying a younger sibling can be, taking the time to explain a game to them or play a game with them, it might lead to bringing someone new into the fandom, someone you can play with. Hearing your story, Netty, about playing games with your brother makes me kind of wish I had brothers closer to me in age that might have eventuated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't hurt. Yeah, siblings can be annoying, but give them a chance.
To go off the back of that, like I think there was a conscious point, like this is sort of outside of gaming. I don't know. I saw a close friend of mine at the time, he and his brother, who were both into video games, but similar sort of thing with some of you guys where the older brother, my friend was the younger brother, and the older brother really liked sports games, and they just weren't into the same stuff. But on top of that, they just fucking hated each other. And I just remember looking at that and being just thinking to myself, I really don't want that to happen with my brother. So I remember, we, fought all the time, but I just consciously remember being like, I want to try and make an effort to, make sure that we're still friends instead of just brothers. So I don't know if that changed anything, but I do remember having that conscious thought. And to this day, my brother and I drifted apart, not as brothers, but mostly because he's got a wife now, he's working super hard, and just time as you get older, time gets in the way, right? So now once a month we get together just to do nerd shit, whether it be play a board game, whether it be just sit and chat. Recently we started playing the Dead Space remake together, or he's been going through God of War Ragnarok and the new Star Wars Jedi Survivor games.
Good
so
game.
Yeah, we just once a month get together and just do that, and it's like old days. It's fucking awesome. So
it does take discipline, though.
It does.
Not everyone has that patience.
No, not at all. And don't force it if it's going to hurt you. So,
yeah, don't force it, but allow it to grow.
Yeah.
Did you have anything, Danny boy?
Just for me, just with my experience again as someone who played with a brother when we were young, but then kind of very quickly sort of grew apart from it, though. Even during the most difficult times when our relationship wasn't great, the one thing we always connected on were video games. Still to this day. And that was even when we're going through troubles, when we played completely opposite different things. He'd be talking about a game that I had no clue about. I had no fucking idea what he was going about. And I was talking about a game he had no idea what was going on about. But we would happily sit there and listen to each other talk about it for hours because gaming was something that we shared. So I suppose that's the only real takeaway I can give, is that even if you don't really get along with your sibling, even if you're playing completely opposite things, it's still something that the two of you can share together, because it's something you can still talk about. Because in some small way, even across all the different genres, gaming is always connected. There is always a common ground across it, and it's something you can always talk about.
This got really deep.
I know, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And with that, we should sign off. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Well, thanks for having me,
Bruce.
guys. I appreciate it.
Who are you?
I'm happy to be here, guys.
What are you doing in my house? Get out!
I'm taking this mic with me.